Welcome to the Hashimoto's Doctor podcast. You're now part of a growing community of people determined to take their health back through education and self-empowerment. But because of the healthcare system today, we don't have access to the types of healthcare that we want. So we have to do things differently. We've got to do things smarter, and we do that by becoming our own advocates. This podcast will give you the perspective and thoughts of one of the world's leading Hashimoto's doctors. So let's get started. Hey guys, Dr. Shook here. I hope you're doing well today. In today's podcast, what I want to talk to you guys about is really how your thyroid physiology can break down in ways that are not necessarily just related to your thyroid quantity or the amount of hormone that you have. You know, this is a really important thing to understand and to focus on, because when you consider that the traditional or the allopathic medical model, the large, our general practitioners, our endocrinologists, fantastic people, very smart, very intelligent, but the system that they work within is focused on really two different things: either replacing a hormone that's deficient in the body or removing a gland. Typically, okay, that's going to be its replace or remove. That's the primary model that I would say 99% of them are work within, right? So when you go to them, you got to understand those are the two things that are going to occur, right? You go in, you get your thyroid hormone checked, and they're either going to replace hormone by giving you more, right, because the levels are low, or they're going to remove a gland if it's, let's say, hyperthyroidism, where it's too much. They might say, okay, we need to consider, a thyroidectomy or something, which both of those are great tools. They both help a lot of people. They're both essential. However, there is a lot of chemistry that occurs with your thyroid that, if it is disrupted, and this is chemistry other than thyroid hormone quantity. So if your amounts are normal, there's a lot of other chemistry that occurs that if it is altered, if it is dysfunctional, it doesn't even have to be necessarily significant so that you present with like a pathological finding. It can just be inefficient. That if there's an issue with dysfunction of other physiological processes, and there are at least 24 ways that we've identified that the body can break down through various mechanisms, or the thyroid physiology can. Only one of those guys is thyroid hormone quantity or amount. So when you start considering this, you have to realize that, if you're being given a replacement hormone, or you are you're not feeling well even though the labs look fine, right? And it could be either or case there. You could, or both. You might be given a hormone and your labs look fine, and you do not feel well. Then I want to encourage you to think about this. Then there is another mechanism at play. Okay, there's something else that's driving this process, and you need to be aware that there is something else that you need to be addressing. And there are really so many different physiological ways that can break down. I would say the most common thing that we find clinically is that people have higher levels of inflammatory chemistry. Usually what's happening is, if we're talking about hypothyroidism or low thyroid function, then it's usually the fact that there's an autoimmune process. Hashimoto's thyroiditis is active, and this is in 9 out of 10 cases, guys. We know that you have about a 90% chance of developing an autoimmune, or having, if you're hypothyroid, have low thyroid function, you have about a 90% chance of having Hashimoto's as the cause of that. So most of the time there's undiagnosed Hashimoto's that's driving an inflammatory response. And until we quiet down and calm down Hashimoto's, the inflammatory chemistry that is produced as a byproduct of the autoimmune problem causes all this dysfunction, right? And so you've got to address the autoimmunity to calm down the inflammatory process so that you can have better physiology, thyroid hormone physiology, better sensitivity of your thyroid hormone at the level of the cells of your body, better conversion of T4 to T3. Lots of things are affected, and there are lots of other of other hormones and processes throughout the body that are affected by inflammation. So that's probably the most common problem that we see. Now, beyond that, there are a lot of other breakdowns that we find: digestive tract dysfunction, liver dysfunction, and when we talk about that, when we say like liver dysfunction, it could be a lot of different things. It could be something, and it might be more appropriate to say liver inefficiencies, where it may not convert T4 to T3 well, and there are numerous processes that will drive that. If there's GI tract dysfunction, and if you don't have good adequate stomach acid, if you have an imbalance in your gut bacteria, then you will not convert some of your T4 to T3. About 20% of it occurs there, and there can be imbalances in the quantities of hormones. There are numerous places this can break down. Vitamin and mineral deficiencies, all these things contribute to significant issues with how you feel, and they manifest as thyroid hormone problems. And really, the fact is that it's usually just that you don't have, you're not getting the stimulation from the thyroid hormone that you actually have in circulation because of these other issues. So, there are many other things we could talk about, but I wanted to share that with you guys because so many people, they suffer with these problems and they don't really know why, and especially when they're being told that things look okay, right? There's your hormones look fine, and they don't realize that there are other physiological processes that can be disrupting their thyroid hormone sensitivity, or even all their hormones. Inflammation decreases sensitivity to the hormones at the level of the cell where it's used. So it's a really important concept. It's something that you guys need to know. I don't want you guys to suffer with this stuff. There's no need. There are a lot of other things that you need to consider doing. If you're stuck and you need help, and you just want to try to get to the bottom of this, then you could consider working with someone. I work with people around the world, around the country. We get advanced testing for people to help them best determine what's driving their problems, and then we put together very precise plans based on the information we have to try and help them get their health back. Now, you could try dietary changes and interventions. We've created, my staff and I, we have tried to do as many things possible to give you guys the ability to help yourself and to be your own advocates, to be better partners with your doctors, to be better educated. And we've put together something called the Transformation Community that has guided programs. And so you can check that out if you're interested. You can just go to hashimotosdoctor.com/TCS, and you can learn all about that. But anyway, guys, I appreciate you. Hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. And I hope this has helped to improve your understanding of maybe what could be contributing to some of the problems you're having. But anyway, I look forward to talking to you again, and hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks. Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed hanging out behind the scenes with Dr. Shook. You can also talk with and learn from Dr. Shook through Facebook Live on our Facebook page at the Office of Dr. Brad Shook. Don't forget, you can also get access to our videos, guidebooks, and thyroid programs at www.drbradshook.com. Oh yeah, and don't forget one more thing. We can change the world one person, one family, and one community at a time. Until next time, remember, today is your day, and no one will tell you who you are and what you can be.